Mr. Speaker, the motion being moved today is for this House to call upon the government to review its policies relating to hawkers and the management of hawker centres to provide better support for hawkers to sustain and grow Singapore's hawker culture so that Singaporeans can continue to enjoy good and affordable hawker food. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that PSP's motion acknowledges three important things. The first, that our hawker centres are places where good and affordable food is accessible to all. Number two, that it has gone beyond the provision of food and become a culture. And third, that these two things need to support in order to sustain and grow. These acknowledgements are testimony to the success of the government's approach because our beloved hawker centres and the special role that they play in Singaporean life is a result of the PAP government's policies and support over the years. From the early years when roving hawkers were brought into centres, built specially for them and supported, the expansion of hawker centres into our heartlands, the hawker upgrading programs, and so on, evolving over time until they have become treasured institutions that they are today, even to the extent of achieving UNESCO Cultural Heritage status and being much in demand in our new housing estates. Mr. Speaker, hawker centres are a Singapore quintessential. They have a very special place in our Singapore psyche, having filled our tummies over the years with warm, familiar foods, and our hearts with much warmth and comfort. I believe every single Singaporean has a lovely, bittersweet, maybe even milestone-defining memory tied to our hawker culture. Perhaps a first date over rojak, a serious sibling discussion over claypot rice, a Lao Di Fang tiger beer hangout spot with friends. Our Singaporean lives are intertwined with the safe spaces offered by our hawker centres and, of course, by the familiar faces of our favourite hawker uncles and aunties. However, this was not always the case in Singapore. It may seem inconceivable to many, but what we recognise as hawker centres today did not exist until the 1970s. In fact, hawker centres are a fairly new construct. Prior to hawker centres, our hawkers existed in our community as street vendors. And it was not too long ago that street hawkering was still seen as a public disamenity. And this is still a living Singaporean memory. I recall that as a child, my uncle telling me one evening that he was unsuccessful in procuring his satay at Glutton Square as the street hawkers had fled in front of him from special squads of illegal hawker inspectors. Indeed, it was this government, right after our independence in 1965, that recognized the collective value of our street hawkers. This government rolled up its sleeves and started the hard work of licensing and organizing our 18,000 street hawkers into safe trading spaces with access to water, storage, and sanitation. And it was also this government, together with the HDB in the 1970s, that did something quite extraordinary and innovative. While organizing street hawkers, the HDB had the eureka moment of also planning into our HDB estates nearby access to organized hawker services, thereby sparking the Singapore hawker culture that we all know and love today. Mr. Speaker, even with these changes throughout the years, one thing remains constant. Our hawkers never had it easy. Mandarin, please. 尽管有了改良和变化，多年来有一件事始终不变：我们的小贩行业从来就不容易。在早年间，我们的街头小贩就已经在十分艰难的环境中谋生。然而，时过天渐，即使在小贩中心成立后，小贩们也依然需要起早晚睡的工作来实现他们对社区的承诺。小贩大姐大哥们，很多凌晨3点半就要起床，并开始准备食材，这样他们才可以在早上7点前 开档，并赶上能够为工作和上学的居民服务。直到晚上最后一位顾客离开后，他们才可以收档回家。想一想吧，这可是一周工作6天，每天18个小时的工作量啊！小贩们辛苦工作，是因为他们想要更好的服务邻里居民，同时他们也为从事小贩这行业感到自豪。正因如此，新加坡小贩文化才会列入联合国教科文名录。小贩在方方面面都影响着新加坡人的生活，小贩们的关怀感动了我们，塑造了我们新加坡的生活方式。您和您同僚的贡献将会继续得到传承与发扬。Mr. Speaker, many hawkers toil day in and day out with the repetitive work of a hawker, such as frying hundreds of plates of, say, char kway teow a day to just give us more wok hei. And this has caused our hawkers back and hand injuries, sometimes even permanently damaging their nerves. Our hawkers experience bar rot, which is an itchy, painful hand fungal infection due to wet work surroundings, washing produce, and cleaning our utensils. Our hawkers soldier on because they are committed to serving our community and the residents in our estates. Our hawkers are proud of the hawker trade, and it is because of this and their hard work that Singapore is now a UNESCO site for cultural heritage. And to this, I thank our many hawker brothers and sisters in the gallery for accepting our PAP MP's invitation to be here with us today. And to all our hawkers and friends listening in, watching this parliamentary debate, your resilience, your care, and your dedication to our community, Singapore thanks you. You have touched our lives. You have touched our lives, and you have shaped our Singaporean way, and know that your legacy will continue to touch our lives through many, many generations to come. Looking ahead, I think we can all agree that we must see how we can continue to support our hawkers. As consumer preferences, workforce demographics, and business models evolve, so must our hawkers and the hawker trade. We need to keep a steely eye on the win-win national desires of providing affordable food for Singaporeans with supporting the lives and livelihoods of our hawkers. Our hawkers and F&B owners have spoken, and long hours, rising business costs, and aging workforce and pressures from cost of living are top of mind for our hawkers. Number one, rising business costs. For hawkers, business costs stem mainly from raw materials, manpower, utilities, rentals, platform delivery fees, and shared services like dishwashing and tabletop cleaning. Hawkers have told me that they face up to 40% increases in raw material costs, and many are still calibrating with their service providers on keeping their costs down. Over at the Labour Movement, we are keeping an eye on ensuring that PWM moves in the cleaning and food services industries are fairly shared among stakeholders, as uplifting lower wage workers are a whole of Singapore, a whole of community effort. Number two, pressures from cost of living. Our hawkers, being at the front line to keep daily meals affordable, are often caught in budget meal crossfires and are sometimes left holding the ground on budget meal prices, unsure of where to look for wider community support. In speaking with hawker center and food operators like NTUC Food Fair, I know that budget meal innovations have been introduced. For example, the Rice Garden Fair Price Group initiative by Food Fair provides budget meals to CHAS and Comcare cardholders with prices controlled by Food Fair. Other local initiatives like our CDC vouchers and our Punggol Shaw Care Voucher Program works hand in hand with store operators in providing for the community. Mr. Speaker, hawker centres were created out of a national win-win desire to provide Singaporeans with convenient access to affordable, delicious meals within safe, clean spaces for all to bond, while at the same time allowing our hawkers access to a ready pool of captive customers, a place to trade safely while enjoying the economies of collective scale. And as a nation, we have continued to keep a very watchful eye on this win-win national desire, even as we continue building up, adding to, and innovating the rich hawker culture we have. Indeed, the constant reviewing and taking in feedback from hawkers and stakeholders ensure that our hawker culture continues to hit home right. Mr. Speaker, in my walkabouts and chats with our Ris-Punggol hawkers, I believe that what we really need is a many helping hands approach if we as a community agree that our hawker culture is quintessentially Singaporean. I learned from Wei Xiang, who has recently quit his job as a cabin crew to join his family's business selling upballing at our Ris-Punggol Hawker Centre, that in the business model of centralized dishwashing prevalent at many hawker centres now, that the store owner would likely need to pay, on top of a monthly service fee for dishwashing, a standardized rate for each bowl that is being used. This means for every empty bowl that a patron of the stall requests from the store owner would incur another 10 cents, 20 cents, maybe more, per bowl charged to them by the dishwashing vendor. Wei Xiang shares that this eats into the already slim profit margins of his glutinous sweet rice ball soup, and as such, he has to sometimes charge patrons extra when they request for more bowls. This has led to some very, very unkind comments in his Google reviews, and yes, I did read up on those reviews, and these are what some of the public comments are. Would not recommend. The seller was quite unreasonable and trying to overcharge an additional bowl. 1 out of 5 stars for service review. Bad attitude, very stingy on bowls. Do not visit. Spend your money somewhere else. 1 out of 5 stars overall review. Wei Xiang was obviously upset and hurt with these reviews, and I can understand why. However, I'm also glad to note that there are progressive and supportive stakeholders too. I spoke with several cleaning and dishwashing service providers and found out that they too understand the difficulties faced by our hawkers and have on their own accord created programs to support our hawkers. Chai Tia Maintenance, for example, provides 100 free bowls for patrons which they put at different collection points in a hawker center and tops this up during peak periods. NTUC Food Fair, after receiving feedback, has also put a hard cap on chargeable bowls for hawkers. Mr. Speaker, the examples that I've brought up no doubt point towards the viability of the Singaporean hawker industry when the system works together positively and towards win-win outcomes. Over the years, we have seen many happy outcomes from running a hawker business. My friend Valerie and her brothers, Adrian and Pathom, who are up in the gallery today, are 4th-generation owners of Sitali. Their great-grandparents fried yu zha kueh as street hawkers in the 1920s. Sitali moved from street vending into hawker centers, and over the years took on yu zha kueh OEM contracts. Yu zha kueh OEM contracts, supplying to other stalls and restaurants. They now have their own factory producing 10,000 sticks of yu zha kueh daily. Yeah, 10,000. Valerie tells me that she's thinking about venturing overseas and has innovative product development plans, such as making a Singapore version of churros from yu zha kueh. Indeed, the labor movement is now assisting her in her OpTech roadmap and the use of technology to upskill her workforce. Like Valerie's parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents before her, many of our hawkers have done well for themselves and passed on their legacies to their families. Some of their children choose to leave the family trade and pursue interests in the arts, law, and engineering. Others, like Valerie and her brothers, have chosen to stay on and continue as pillars in this industry. And you know what? Valerie is in good company, very good company. She is part of Food Gen 2, 12代, which is a grouping of second-generation F&B owners and some running companies spanning over 5 generations. They are a very strong, close group of 100 members, making positive strides on the ground towards a sustainable and strong future for F&B and our hawker culture. And they are here in the gallery today to lend support to our hawkers. Thank you. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would summarize my points as follows. Our current dynamic hawker landscape is a result of hard work and dedication of hawkers, as well as many policy reviews and innovation by the government working with the community over the years. Hence, I wholeheartedly agree that we should continue to review our policies relating to hawkers and hawker centres. But at the same time, to be fair, we should also recognize that much work has been done over the years in terms of policy and support, and this is a continuing journey. And second point is everyone, not just the government, has a part to play in supporting our hawkers and sustaining and growing our hawker culture. I call on the government, Singaporeans, the labour movement, operators, service providers to continue exploring new and innovative ways in which we can support our hawkers. Thank you.